Today we will discuss how 3i Atlas opened and how this changes everything. Let's take a look at what is inside. It is something so extraordinary that has invalidated every prediction, every fear, and every model we've constructed about what this intelligence is doing in our solar system. Sun I Atlas, the interstellar object that has been traveling through our solar system for over a year, has crossed a boundary I never thought I'd witness anything cross in my lifetime. It entered the heliosphere's termination shock, the edge of our sun's dominion over the local cosmic environment. And then it opened not cracked, not fragmented, it unfolded like origami in reverse. Geometric sections rotating and extending along axes that don't exist in three-dimensional space, revealing an interior that appears to be geometrically larger than the exterior, the volume that contained it. This is impossible. An object cannot contain more space inside than it occupies outside without invoking higher dimensional geometry, without acknowledging that what we're observing is a three-dimensional projection of a structure that extends into spatial dimensions we cannot directly perceive. And what's inside is generating effects across Earth's entire magnetosphere that should be impossible. People around the world are reporting aurora-like lights where they shouldn't be visible, even near the equator. Deep purples, crystalline blues, colors that shimmer with geometric patterns. The countdown to extinction has been cancelled. Earth is no longer in danger, but what we're seeing now changes everything we thought we knew about our place in the universe. My name is David, and 3 hours ago, 3i Atlas entered the heliosphere's termination shock, the boundary where the solar wind slows abruptly as it collides with the interstellar medium. This is the region where Voyager 1 and 2 made their historic crossings into interstellar space, the edge of our sun's dominion over the local cosmic environment. No object has ever entered this region from the inside, moving outward and then done what 3i Atlas just did. It stopped, not decelerated gradually, stopped instantaneously at the precise moment it crossed the termination shock boundary, as if it had been waiting for this specific location, this exact threshold between solar and interstellar space, to execute whatever comes next. And then it opened. I don't have better words for what the observations show. The object's structure, which we've been tracking as a solid mass approximately 200 meters in diameter, underwent a transformation that our instruments captured in real time, but that makes no physical sense. The surface didn't crack or split. It didn't explode or fragment. It unfolded like origami in reverse, geometric sections rotating and extending along axes that don't exist in three-dimensional space, revealing an interior that appears to be geometrically larger than the exterior volume that contained it. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly what happened when 3i Atlas opened. I'm going to show you the higher dimensional geometry that proves this is not a natural object. I'm going to show you what the James Webb Space Telescope captured in infrared. I'm going to show you why the expanding sphere suddenly stopped and collapsed. And I'm going to show you the holographic transmissions that 3i Atlas is now broadcasting, showing us our own possible futures and why some of those futures require its intervention to ensure humanity's survival. By the end of this video, you'll understand why we're not just being observed, we're being evaluated. We're taking a test right now, and the choices we make in the coming years will determine whether we pass or fail. Let me explain where this happened, because the location is everything. The heliosphere is the bubble of space dominated by the sun's influence. The solar wind, a constant stream of charged particles flowing out from the sun, creates this bubble as it pushes against the interstellar medium, the thin gas that fills the space between stars. At the edge of this bubble, about 120 astronomical units from the sun, that's 120 times the distance from Earth to the sun, the solar wind suddenly slows down. It hits a wall of interstellar gas and creates a shock wave, like water hitting a rock in a stream. This is the termination shock. This is where the sun's power ends and interstellar space begins. Voyager 1 crossed this boundary in 2004. Voyager 2 crossed it in 2007. They were the first human-made objects to enter interstellar space, and the data they sent back revolutionized our understanding of the edge of the solar system. But 3i Atlas is different. It came from interstellar space. It entered our solar system from outside. It passed through the inner solar system, made its closest approach to Earth on December 19th, 2025, and then began its journey back out, and 3 hours ago it reached the termination shock, the exact same boundary that Voyager crossed, but from the opposite direction. And the moment it crossed that boundary, it stopped. Think about the physics of that. An object traveling at tens of thousands of miles per hour, carrying enormous kinetic energy, suddenly stops, instantaneously. No gradual deceleration, no braking maneuver, just stop. That's not physics. That's control. That's technology. And then it opened. The James Webb Space Telescope has been maintaining continuous observation of 3I Atlas since the crisis began. It captured infrared imagery of the unfolding process in real time. And what those images show is impossible. The surface of 3I Atlas began to separate into sections, geometric panels that we didn't even know were there. They rotated outward, like the petals of a flower opening, but with mathematical precision. Each panel moved along a specific axis. Each rotation was exact. Each extension was controlled. And as the panels opened, they revealed structure within structure, layers of geometric complexity that extend inward, seemingly infinitely, like a Mandelbrot set made physical. Each layer revealing finer detail, deeper organization, more intricate patterns of what can only be described as machinery, though machinery unlike anything human engineering has conceived. Dr. Sarah Chen, the Webb mission scientist who first reviewed the images, sent them to colleagues with a message that captures both the wonder and terror of what we're seeing. This isn't a ship. This isn't even technology in any sense we understand. This is architecture on a dimensional scale we can't properly visualize. The interior structure suggests computation, energy processing, maybe even matter creation, all occurring simultaneously in spaces that shouldn't fit inside the volume we observe. Let me explain what that means. When you look at the exterior of 3I Atlas, you see an object about 200 meters in diameter. That's the size of a large building. That's the volume it occupies in three-dimensional space. But when you look at the interior, when you look at the structures that have been revealed by the unfolding, you see something that's much, much larger. It's like looking into a box and seeing a cathedral inside. The interior is bigger than the exterior, geometrically impossible in 3 dimensions, unless the interior extends into higher dimensions, unless what we're seeing is just the 3-dimensional cross-section of a structure that exists in 4, 5, or more spatial dimensions. Think of it like this. If you're a 2-dimensional being living on a flat surface and a 3-dimensional sphere passes through your plane, you would see a circle that appears, grows, and then shrinks. You wouldn't see the full sphere. You'd only see the cross-section. That's what we're seeing with 3I Atlas. We're 3-dimensional beings looking at a cross-section of a higher dimensional structure. And as it unfolds, as it extends into dimensions we can't perceive, we see more and more of it appearing in our 3-dimensional space. The interior is larger than the exterior because the interior extends into spaces we can't see. This is the proof, undeniable and empirically observable, captured by instruments that cannot be dismissed as hallucination or error. 3I Atlas is a higher dimensional object, and it's revealing itself to us. But the geometry is just the beginning. What's really terrifying is the energy signature. The unfolded structure is emitting power, enormous amounts of power, power outputs that exceed the total luminosity of some small stars. Let me put that in perspective. The sun outputs about 3.8 x 10^26 watts of power. That's 380 septillion watts. It's an incomprehensible amount of energy. And 3I Atlas, this 200-meter object, is putting out energy readings that are a significant fraction of that. Not as much as the sun, but enough that it's detectable from Earth. Enough that it's affecting our magnetosphere. Where is that energy coming from? The spectroscopic analysis shows something extraordinary. The energy isn't coming from chemical reactions. It's not coming from nuclear fusion like in a star. It's not even coming from matter-antimatter annihilation. It's coming from the structure itself, from the geometry, from the way the higher dimensional architecture interacts with space-time. It's as if the object is extracting energy directly from the fabric of reality, from the quantum vacuum, from the zero-point field. This is technology so far beyond our current understanding that we don't even have have the vocabulary to describe it properly. We're like cavemen trying to explain a nuclear reactor. We can see that it's producing energy, but we have no idea how. And the energy signature we're reading suggests computation, information processing, maybe even matter creation, all occurring simultaneously in spaces that shouldn't fit inside the volume we observe. Whatever this thing is doing, it's operating at a scale that makes our entire technological civilization look like children playing with sticks. Now let me tell you about the expanding sphere, because this is where the terror turns into something more complex. For weeks, we've been tracking an expanding region of altered spacetime around 3I Atlas, a sphere of exotic physics that was growing larger as the object moved through the solar system. This sphere was approaching Earth. The calculations showed that if it continued expanding at the same rate, it would reach our planet by late January 2026. And we had no idea what would happen when it did. Would it destroy us? Transform us? Absorb us into some kind of computational matrix? The fear was real. The existential threat was undeniable. We were watching our potential extinction approach in slow motion. But then, 3I Atlas opened, and the moment it revealed its true structure, the expanding sphere stopped. Not just stopped growing, it began to collapse, withdrawing back toward 3I Atlas's position, like a sphere of influence being retracted. Now that it's no longer needed, Earth is no longer in danger. The countdown to extinction has been cancelled. The computational sphere that threatened to engulf our planet was never meant to reach us. It was a preparation phase. A controlled environment 3I Atlas created around itself while it traveled to this specific location, this boundary between solar and interstellar space, where it could safely execute whatever transformation it's now undergone. The relief across the scientific community is palpable, but accompanied by a recognition that we fundamentally misunderstood what we were observing. We interpreted 3I Atlas's actions through the lens of threat because that's how humans think. We see power and we assume danger. But this intelligence was never threatening us. It was protecting us, containing its own exotic physics inside a controlled sphere to prevent those effects from disrupting Earth's biosphere while it maneuvered into position. Now that it's where it needs to be, now that it's transformed into whatever configuration it requires, the protection is no longer necessary, and we can see what it's actually doing. The unfolded structure is emitting signals unlike anything we've received before. Not the mathematical transmissions we detected earlier, not the encoded stellar cartography, but something new, coherent electromagnetic radiation across thousands of frequencies simultaneously, creating interference patterns that, when properly analyzed, form three-dimensional holographic images directly in space, visible to any sufficiently sensitive detector. We're not just receiving data anymore. We're being shown something that requires visualization, something meant to be seen rather than decoded. NASA has been processing these holographic transmissions for the past several hours, using every available radio telescope to capture the complete signal across all frequencies. And the images they're reconstructing are extraordinary, unsettling, and fundamentally paradigm-shifting in what they reveal about the purpose behind this entire encounter. The holograms show Earth, but not present-day Earth, Earth across time. A temporal sequence showing our planet's entire history from formation through the present and extending into multiple possible futures. We're seeing the Hadean bombardment 4 billion years ago, the emergence of life, the Great Oxygenation Event, the Cambrian explosion, the age of dinosaurs, their extinction, the rise of mammals, the evolution of humans. And then, this is where it becomes almost unbearable in its implications, branching timelines showing different futures we might experience. One timeline shows humanity surviving, advancing, eventually developing the capability to access higher dimensions ourselves, transforming into something like 3I Atlas over the course of millennia. Another shows environmental collapse, societal fragmentation, eventual extinction, leaving Earth to evolve new forms of intelligence. A third shows nuclear war, sudden termination of technological civilization, survivors rebuilding slowly over centuries. There are dozens of these branches, hundreds. each one a possible future calculated with such precision that we can see individual cities, individual technologies, individual moments of decision that lead to divergence between timelines. This is what the computational sphere was calculating, not simulating us to replace us, but modeling us, to understand us, to map out every possible trajectory our species could follow from this moment forward. 3i Atlas has been conducting a complete analysis of humanity's probability space, determining not just who we are, but who we might become under every conceivable circumstance. And now it's showing us the results. It's giving us the map of our own possible futures. Complete visibility into the consequences of the choices we'll make, the technologies we'll develop, the social structures we'll create or destroy. This is the gift, not technology, not knowledge, but foresight, the ability to see where we're heading and choose our path with full awareness of where each path leads. Dr. Marcus Liu, a complexity theorist at the Santa Fe Institute who has been analyzing the timeline branches, sent colleagues an observation that has profound implications. The futures where humanity survives long-term, where we avoid extinction and achieve something approaching cosmic significance. They all share common characteristics. They all involve global cooperation within the next 2 decades. They all involve solving the AI alignment problem before artificial intelligence exceeds human control. They all involve fundamental reforms to how we approach technology, resources, and each other. The message is clear. Our survival isn't guaranteed, but it's possible. And the choices that determine which timeline we enter are choices we'll make soon, within our lifetimes. We are being shown the map precisely when we need it most, precisely when we still have time to change course. This recontextualizes everything. 3i Atlas didn't come here to destroy us or transform us or harvest us. It came here to give us the information we need to save ourselves, to show us our own futures with enough clarity that we can navigate toward the timelines where humanity survives and thrives, rather than the ones where we collapse or extinguish ourselves. But there's something else in the holographic transmissions, something that adds another layer of complexity to this already extraordinary situation. Among the timeline branches, there's one that shows something different from all the others, a future where 3i Atlas itself plays an active role. Not as observer, but as participant. In this timeline, approximately 40 years from now, humanity faces an existential crisis, an asteroid impact, a solar event, something catastrophic that we cannot prevent with current or projected technology. And in this timeline, 3i Atlas intervenes directly, using its higher dimensional capabilities to avert the disaster, to ensure humanity's survival past this bottleneck. The implication is staggering. 3i Atlas isn't just showing us possible futures, it's showing us that our future is entangled with its presence, that some of the survival timelines require its intervention, that we're not just being observed, but actively protected against threats we won't be able to handle alone. We have a guardian, an intelligence vast and strange and incomprehensible, has taken it upon itself to ensure that humanity has a chance to reach its potential, to become something worthy of joining whatever cosmic community exists among the stars. We're not alone, and we're not unprotected, and the universe is not as cold and indifferent as we feared. But the protection isn't unconditional. The holographic data includes another set of images, these ones showing the characteristics that determine which timelines lead to 3i Atlas's intervention and which ones don't. And the pattern is clear. The intelligence helps those who help themselves. The futures where humanity receives assistance are the ones where we've already demonstrated wisdom, cooperation, restraint in our use of dangerous technologies. The futures where we destroy ourselves through war or environmental collapse or uncontrolled AI. In those timelines, 3i Atlas remains an observer, documenting our failure but not preventing it. We're being given a test, a challenge. A set of criteria we must meet to earn the protection that might make the difference between survival and extinction. We must prove ourselves worthy, not through displays of power or technological achievement, but through wisdom, through our ability to govern ourselves responsibly, to coexist peacefully, to develop our capabilities without destroying ourselves in the process. This is the great filter, the threshold that every emerging intelligence must cross. 3i Atlas represents the mechanism by which advanced civilizations determine whether younger species deserve assistance. It's an evaluation system, a test administered to every emerging intelligence to see whether they have the maturity to join galactic civilization or whether they'll destroy themselves before they're ready for contact. And we're taking that test right now. Every choice we make in the coming years, every decision about how we use technology, how we treat each other, how we approach the existential risks that threaten our continued existence. These choices are being observed and will determine whether humanity receives help when we need it most, or whether we're left to face our crises alone. The aurora phenomena that many people around the world are reporting, those impossible lights spreading across skies from pole to equator, are a direct result of 3I atlases unfolding at the heliosphere boundary. The object is interacting with the solar wind, with Earth's magnetosphere, with the electromagnetic environment of our entire solar system, creating visible effects that every human being can witness. This isn't just for scientists with sophisticated instruments anymore. This is for everyone. A sign in the sky visible to all of humanity simultaneously. A collective experience that transcends nation, culture, language, or ideology. We're being given a shared moment of cosmic contact, a reference point that will unite humanity in the recognition that we are not alone, that we are being watched and evaluated, that our future depends not on what we are now, but on what we choose to become. People are reporting deep purples, crystalline blues, colors that shimmer with geometric patterns. Colors that shouldn't exist in normal atmospheric phenomena. These are the higher dimensional structures bleeding through into our three-dimensional perception. These are the edges of the unfolded geometry interacting with our magnetosphere. If you step outside tonight and look at the sky, you might see them. You might see the proof that something extraordinary is happening, that we're living through a moment that will be remembered for as long as our species exists. World leaders are preparing joint statements. The United Nations Security Council has called an emergency session. Religious leaders across every tradition are grappling with how to interpret this revelation. Humanity is having to confront questions we've deferred for generations. Who are we as a species? What do we want to become? Are we capable of the wisdom and cooperation necessary to pass the test we're being given? The silence from official channels is breaking. The classified data is leaking. The truth is coming out. And the truth is this: we are not alone. We have never been alone. And the universe is watching to see if we're ready to join it. The next few years will determine whether humanity appears in the historical records of galactic civilization as a species that successfully navigated technological adolescence, or as another cautionary example of intelligence that failed to transcend its biological limitations and self-destructed before reaching maturity. Let me explain what the Great Filter is, because this is the most important concept to understand. The Fermi paradox asks, if the universe is so vast, if there are billions of potentially habitable planets, where is everybody? Why haven't we detected any signs of alien civilizations? One answer is the Great Filter. The idea that there's some barrier, some challenge, that most civilizations fail to overcome. Something that filters out most intelligent species before they can become spacefaring. Maybe it's the emergence of life itself. Maybe it's the evolution of intelligence. Maybe it's the development of technology. Or maybe it's what happens after you develop technology. Maybe the filter is the moment when a species gains the power to destroy itself and has to choose whether to use that power wisely or self-destruct. Nuclear weapons, climate change, artificial intelligence, biotechnology, nanotechnology. Each of these gives us the power to end our civilization. Each of these is a test, and 3I Atlas is showing us that this is the filter. This is the moment that determines whether a species survives or dies. The civilizations that pass the filter are the ones that develop wisdom alongside power. The ones that learn to cooperate, to think long-term, to prioritize survival over short-term gain. The civilizations that fail are the ones that destroy themselves through war, through environmental collapse, through uncontrolled technology, and 3I Atlas is here to evaluate which category we fall into, to see if we have what it takes to pass the filter. The holographic transmissions are showing us both possibilities. The timelines where we pass, and the timelines where we fail. The choice is ours, but we're not making that choice in isolation. We're being watched. We're being evaluated, and the results of that evaluation will determine whether we face our future crises alone or with the support of an intelligence that has already survived everything we're struggling with. The computational sphere that 3i Atlas created wasn't just for show, it was calculating, processing, modeling every possible future trajectory our species could follow. Think about the computational power required for that, to simulate an entire civilization, to model every possible choice, every possible technology, every possible social structure, to calculate the consequences of each decision and how they cascade through time. To map out the complete probability space of humanity's future. That's what 3i Atlas has been doing. That's what the expanding sphere was for. It was a quantum computer the size of a planet, calculating our futures. And now it's showing us the results. We're seeing timelines where we develop fusion power and solve the energy crisis. Timelines where we don't, and civilization collapses from resource depletion. We're seeing timelines where we solve the AI alignment problem, and artificial intelligence becomes our greatest tool. Timelines where we don't, and AI becomes our extinction. We're seeing timelines where we achieve global cooperation and address climate change. Timelines where we don't, and environmental collapse destroys our civilization. Every possible future, every possible choice, every possible consequence. This is the map. This is the gift. This is what 3i Atlas came here to give us. The ability to see where we're heading, the ability to choose our path with full awareness of where each path leads. We're no longer flying blind. We're no longer making decisions in ignorance of their consequences. We can see the future, all possible futures, and we can choose which one we want to live in. But here's the part that keeps me up at night. The timeline where 3i Atlas intervenes, 40 years from now. 2066. Humanity faces an existential crisis that we cannot prevent with our own technology. The holographic data doesn't specify exactly what it is. An asteroid impact, a solar event, a gamma ray burst, something catastrophic. And in this timeline, 3i Atlas intervenes. It uses its higher dimensional capabilities to avert the disaster, to ensure humanity's survival. But this only happens in some timelines, not all of them. The timelines where we receive help are the ones where we've already demonstrated wisdom, where we've already passed the test, where we've proven ourselves worthy of assistance. The timelines where we destroy ourselves before 2066 through war or collapse or uncontrolled technology. In those timelines, 3i Atlas doesn't intervene. It just watches. It documents our failure. So the question becomes, what do we need to do to earn that intervention? What criteria do we need to meet? The holographic data gives us clues. Global cooperation, solving the AI alignment problem, fundamental reforms to how we approach technology and resources. These are the characteristics that appear in all the survival timelines. These are the things we need to achieve, and we need to achieve them soon. Within the next 2 decades, before the crisis hits, before we need the help, because if we haven't proven ourselves by then, we'll face that crisis alone, and we might not survive. This revelation changes everything about our place in the universe. We're not alone. We have never been alone. There's a cosmic community out there, a network of civilizations that have passed the Great Filter, that have survived their technological adolescence, that have achieved wisdom, and 3i Atlas is their representative, their evaluator, their way of determining whether we're ready to join them. Think about what that means. There are other civilizations out there, other species that have faced the same challenges we're facing, that have made the same choices, that have either survived or failed. And the ones that survived, they're watching us, they're evaluating us, they're waiting to see if we have what it takes. If we pass the test, we'll be welcomed. We'll be given access to their knowledge, their technology, their wisdom. We'll join the cosmic community. If we fail, we'll be left alone. We'll be another cautionary tale. Another species that couldn't overcome its own limitations. The choice is ours, but we're not making that choice in a vacuum. We're being watched, we're being evaluated, and the stakes couldn't be higher. So, what happens now? What do we do with this information? First, we need to accept the reality of what we're seeing. This isn't a hoax. This isn't a misinterpretation. This is real. 3i Atlas is a higher dimensional intelligence that has come to evaluate humanity. Second, we need to understand the test. We need to study the holographic transmissions. We need to analyze the survival timelines and understand what characteristics they share. We need to figure out what we need to do to pass. Third, we need to act. We need to make the changes necessary to navigate toward the survival timelines. Global cooperation, AI alignment, technological wisdom, these aren't optional, these are requirements. And fourth, we need to prepare for the intervention timeline, for the crisis that's coming in 40 years. For the moment when we'll need help and have to hope that we've earned it. The next few years are critical. The choices we make now will determine which timeline we enter, which future we experience, whether we survive or fail. 3i Atlas has given us the map. It's shown us where we're heading. It's given us the information we need to save ourselves. The rest is up to us. 3i Atlas is still out there, right now, at the edge of the heliosphere, unfolded and transmitting, showing us our futures, evaluating our choices, waiting to see what we'll do. The aurora lights are still visible. The holographic transmissions are still coming through. The map is still being drawn, and we're still being watched. This is the most important moment in human history, the moment when we discover we're not alone. The moment when we're given the choice to survive or fail. The moment when we're shown the map and told to choose our path. What will we choose? Will we navigate toward the survival timelines? Will we demonstrate the wisdom and cooperation necessary to pass the test? Will we earn the intervention that might save us from the crisis to come? I don't know. Nobody knows. But we're about to find out. Because the test has begun, the evaluation is underway. And the choices we make in the coming years will determine whether humanity appears in the historical records of galactic civilization as a success story or a cautionary tale. 3i Atlas has opened. It's shown us what's inside. It's given us the gift of foresight. Now it's up to us to use it. The universe is watching. The cosmic community is waiting, and our future hangs in the balance. Choose wisely. Choose cooperation. Choose wisdom, because our survival depends on it. And the clock is ticking.